I wanted to take just about probably 10, 15 minutes. Some of our coaches had a couple words they wanted to share with you, just to talk about what they saw out there today and to entertain some questions that might be there. Mark, I'm going to hand you the mic.
Sheet and holding the tiller was, holding the tiller was kind of okay, but I saw a lot of this. And one thing is not great for your dentist is going to love you, right? But the other thing is slow. It's really slow. So a different way you can do this, and it seems like it would take a lot of practice, but the practice you're going to get, you can do this 20 times in between races. Head downwind, let your sail all the way out. Can somebody hold the end of this so I don't throw it off the table? So what you want to do is just, this is mostly for going around the leeward mark or whatever, but anytime you need to trim in the sail, you're going to hold the sheet in one hand, you're going to grab it with the other hand. You can pull without moving your tiller at all. The tiller extension is pretty flexible, right? So you just need a bunch of practice making sure that the tiller doesn't move. So one thing about this is you look forward. Your hands know they have the rope in them. You don't have to look at the rope, right? So you're just grabbing the rope, grab it with the other hand, pull it. You can do a lot of work, but you're looking forward to make sure the boat goes straight. Do that 5, 6 times. And then go find the buoy and go around the buoy. So what you're doing is you're just going to get a nice smooth turn going around the buoy, push the tiller away, and the same thing. You're pulling in the main sheet and just making sure you're looking forward and watching you around the buoy, right? So does that make sense? It seems like it takes a lot of practice, and it does, but you've got tons of time to practice this. Just go downwind. You can do it 5, 6 times before you even start the race. It's really easy. The other thing that I noticed just mechanically is some of you guys have, I think a lot of us have there's a strap here, a metal strap with a tube around it, and it goes up to the main sheet, and then a bungee to keep that from getting hooked on the stern. And a lot of folks have this with a lot of tension on it. So you have to actually pull pretty hard. What happens is the main goes out to here, and it's pulling your tiller sideways. In light air, it feels like you have weather helm. You don't have weather helm, you have a strong bungee. So where this should be is find out where your strap is attached to the main sheet, make sure that's straight up and down. This should almost just be neutral, like just the tiniest bit of tension on it. It's not meant to really pull that in, it's meant to keep it from drooping and falling over the side of the boat.
What if you don't have anything like that?
Then you go back and undo your follow-up one.
Yeah.
So if you don't have one at all, what you want to do is, and what I try to do on the jibe, and it doesn't work all the time, don't get me wrong, but you got your main sheet coming over the top from your thing into your cleat. On a jibe, I actually reach up as the boom's coming across right to this block, and I grab my main sheet here, and as it's coming across, I give it all my arm's length straight into the boat. Hopefully that kicks it up right as it's coming across center line. I kick it up. Hopefully that kicks it up and over the back end of the rudder head. It works 30% of no. It may work 50 to 60% of the time, but if it doesn't, you just go back and kick it over, and away you go.
So the other thing you can do at mark roundings is have a skipper who's a slave driver, and after I've set the jib and gotten the spinnaker down and tucked away, and he's getting ready to round, he says, slide up here or slide back here and pull in my main sheet. Because I got 2 hands then.
Okay, so a couple things that I saw. One in particular, main sheets weren't cleated in far enough. We had some pretty nice wind out there for the last half of it at least. And I know I worked with the guys I was on the boat with, getting the main sheet in over the center of the boat, and then you've got to work and play that main sheet in and out as you start to feel the pressure heat up on your tiller for windward.
Weather helm.
Weather helm, thank you. and then, you know, you're playing your main in and out a little bit. If you're playing your main in and out a little more, you might want to put, and David, you can correct me here, put a tweak of vang, so you're not actually applying pressure to the sail yet, but it's keeping the main from going up first when you really want to dump it out. If you're to the point where you have to play that main a little bit to get rid of that windward helm and a puff, make sure that main goes out first rather than up. But you're not really trying to put, I don't try to put any pressure on my vang yet to start flattening out the sail until I really start to get overpowered where I'm either having to let that main out a lot more or leave it out to be able to get by that. You want to try to, you know, hike it down, play that main. David, am I saying anything really wrong there? Or?
No, you're saying it perfectly.
Okay.
You don't have any bang on and you ease.
Yeah.
It's gonna really spill the upper, and the boat's actually gonna get very herky-jerky wobbly through the water, because you'll go from having a lot of pressure to pretty much no pressure in the main.
Right, so getting those mains in, you know, center line on the boat, because if you want your jib trimmed in correctly, but your main is out over the corner of the boat, what are you doing? You're closing something off. What are you closing off? You're closing off the slots. So you're not getting any airflow through your jib, and you want to try to avoid that, because the next thing you have to start doing to keep your speed up is letting the jib out more, and then you're not pointing, you're not going upwind. So that was number one. Number two, a couple things that I saw both on the boats, and I'll tell you what, both the guys I was on the boats with did an excellent job thinking through this, and the next thing you know, they were like rock stars at it. So Sarah and Jen, where's Jen? And I saw this on a few, and I've talked to a couple other people about making sure your boat gets tacked, and that jib, let's forget about whether you're backwinding the jib or what the sail is. I personally like knowing my jib is coming around and getting sheeted in to the point where I can start driving the boat again. It helps me personally know when I'm getting through my tack so that I'm not over tacking and I'm not under tacking. Okay, so what I want Lynn to do is most of the times I ask her to get that jib in very quickly so that I can drive the boat. It may not be the fastest way for everybody, but for me it's good. And one thing I saw a lot of people doing, Leah, would you hold this for a second? On the jib sheet, ready about heartily, right? You're going around, and as I see somebody coming across the boat to get to their next jib, they're doing this, and this, and this, and this. How much am I pulling in every time here?
How much?
About 6 to 8 inches, maybe? Well, as I'm coming across the boat, this is where I'm going to be pulling in from again, right? I'm sitting on this side, we're going this direction, ready about heartily, I'm unclipping, right? We're going from port to starboard here, so I'm unclipping here, and as I'm coming across the boat, my arm is about, what, 2.5 feet?
Great.
And if I go from here to way out here, I got 4 feet of rope in my hand and I'm coming across. So as I'm coming across the boat, Lynn, she's stepping across, pulling like this. Okay? Then she's reaching down and she's pulling like this. Now she's trying not to knock me out. Because I'm trying to sit a little forward, right? So we've gotten the practice down, so I'm not getting clunked in the side of the face, but I'm sorry for pulling that out of your hand so fast. But if I'm using my whole arm, 1, 2, I'm potentially bringing that jib in 2 strokes. And if I don't have it in 2 strokes, my last little bit is a 6-inch or 4-inch type of adjustment. So try not to do this, okay? And think about the other places in the boat you can do that. Centerboards. You ever sit there on the centerboard and, oh my God, it's taking me forever to get centerboard, centerboard, centerboard. And then the last thing is on your main sheet. You saw Mark kind of show you how to do this. Well, again, same thing. He wasn't doing this. He was doing this to this. So.
So on
Yep.
your jib backwinding,
That's a whole different discussion.
I'll come talk.
Yeah, let's not bog this one down for that.
Okay, I just want to say a couple of things. I saw a lot of people, and people were getting a little better later in the day. First of all, I want to say last year's Clinigatta, I feel like there's been a real progression. Like you guys are definitely improved a lot, which Dave and I both agreed on. But what I saw, a lot of people come around that weather mark, they immediately want to start heading downwind, which is good. So what do? Rudder over, and then they start letting the main out. Or maybe they forget, but that main has got to come out. It has to come out before, as you're turning, because you steer the boat with the sails, right? The main sail is always driving the bow upwind, and the jib is pushing it downwind. So you want to let that main out, and when you let it out, if it's windy, it's really hard to turn the boat down. It tells you that, but it's the same true in light air and medium air. So the boat isn't telling you it as much. It should be something you do automatically. So and also make sure your vang, you don't want to totally release the vang like Dave was saying, but you need to let it out a little bit. A lot of people weren't doing anything with their vangs, so their main is down and tight, and it can't even get to the shroud. My boom is all torn up because it's always on that shroud when we're going downwind. And then the other thing, a lot of people want to set their spinnaker bowls before they put the chute up. Let me tell you, we never put our pole up. And the only exception would be if I know I'm going to be on a tight reach, which we don't do triangles anymore. So get your spinnaker up. So come around the mark, let the boom out as you're turning, and look at your course and get your chute up and fly it. I know in the first race, Dave, you guys were in first, I think, and who's the second? Anyway, doesn't matter. They came around and they got their chutes flying beautifully, and then they jived. So if their poles had been set, they wouldn't have had an opportunity to do that anyway. So we're giving you guys a ton of information, but try to just grab onto little things. Shoot up before the spinnaker pole. Get it flying. Then you can fly that thing without a pole all the way downwind. If you've got the guy under the hook, you should be able to fly that chute without a pole.
Hey Ryan, real quick. Sheet and guy under the hook when you're doing that, or sheet and guy out flying the spinnaker, or does it matter? Or is it just a personal
No, to
preference?
fly the chute, you need to have the guy under the hook and the sheet out.
Okay.
Yep, so when I come around the weather mark, we've already got that starboard guy hooked,
Okay.
and make sure the other one's clear.
Okay.
And there was one other thing I wanted to say. Well,
While you're thinking of that, Ryan, I want to go back to what he was talking about, coming around the windward mark and easing your sails. That distance between the windward mark and the offset, depending on what your race committee is, some of us sometimes see those as extra legs, all right? So you're still able to, and as you come off from close hold onto your going downwind phase, you're really going through transition on a reach.
really?
You want to keep that boat level, and the crew together, skipper and crew combined, should be easing your sails under control while hiking that boat and keeping it flat, because you're actually transitioning through one of the fastest points of sailing that you can go through. From a beat to a tight reach to a broad reach, your boat's actually picking up speed going through those until you start downwind with your spinnaker. So use that to your advantage by easing the sails under control in a very concerted or deliberate method together. Don't just let that jib out. Don't just let the main out. Because if you're letting both of those things luff as you're going around, you're just dumping speed and losing speed. So it's like a conveyor. You're coming around the windward mark, the conveyor's starting to go a little faster. Gain that extra half or whole boat length over the guys behind you by driving the boat, staying in control, and then when you get to the offset, if you really have to because the winds are high enough, then as you're still coming downwind even a little further, then dive into what you're doing on the spinnakers. Just another little pieces.
Okay, and I just want to add one more thing to what I said about the spinnaker. We always take our pole down before we take the chute down.
Yeah.
So again, why? Because you can fly without a pole, and you get to carry it further, and the pole's not in your way. So shoot up first, and then shoot the pole down. Yeah. Confusing myself. And Dave just told me something interesting. He said they don't put the guy under the hook when they put the chute up. They have them both free.
Wait, but
Want your
pole sky?
Nope.
And it's, the only cautionary thing about that, to me, in breeze, I want to have my guy hooked because if it's windy, the pole can just go, can sky. But it's true, yeah. Because it's got more room to open up.
The reason
So
we
that
do
makes
it
sense.
without it in the hook is because the kite's going to power up quicker if it's not restricted down at the leech. So if you think about it, if you're going through your guy hook and then up to the leech, it's kind of pulling down on it. Especially in light air, you want that kite to open up and get as far away from the rig as possible. So we kind of take it out of the hook to float it a little bit more and power it up so we can kind of get going and sail deeper quicker. So that's the only twist, but Ryan's pretty much correct about the way to do it.
Got a question. I heard you talking on Wednesday down at the pier at Stonebridge about centerboards downwind, and that you never, ever, ever pull your centerboard all the way.
Yeah, we don't do that. So let me explain. If you're going on a kind of a tight reach, let's say a beam reach, you probably want your blade about 50% of the way down. So we see that many times between the weather mark and the offset. And if you could imagine, if you pulled your blade up like 80, 90% between weather and offset, where's your boat going? You're not even going to make it to the offset. So the blade up or down is kind of proportional to your angle of sail. The deeper you go, the more you can have it up. And if you have to heat it up or take a different angle, you want to put it back down some. And so if you think about it in good breeze where we're sailing deep angles, you can pick it up 80, 85% of the way, but never 100%. And if it's lighter where we're taking hotter angles where we're maybe, 140 from the wind, you're putting the blade down maybe 30, 40%.
In relation, just describe to them, in relation to, 'cause I think we all have a little bit different opinion, but the centerboard trunk comes up, right, to its highest point, and then it starts going back down a little bit again. Where do you set it to be, quote, as far up as you would ever take it?
It's probably going to be back on the arch maybe a good 6 to 8 inches, about that.
So not even
So
as high, it's all,
if the tongue of the centerboard's almost like parallel with the trunk, you're up way too high. You're up like 95, 100%. And what's going to happen downwind when your blade's up, the boat has a little bit of lateral motion, and that blade's there to fight that. So if that's not there, your boat's going to wash to leeward, and you're going to lose forward speed. And it's not fast because you're dumping all that speed, and typically that's what's going to bring your apparent wind forward and actually allow you to sail deeper.
I personally never go, I go about to the top and maybe just a hair coming back down, and then I stop. I don't ever come more than just an inch, or half an inch to an inch over maximum curve up till it starts back down.
Dave, on our boat, we'll bring it 90% of the way up and then go back down a couple of inches just to flip the gasket.
Yeah.
So that's another trick when you're going, if it's your crew pulling the board up, pull it up as little higher than you want and then ease it down just a couple of inches to let the gasket flip, because the turbulence that you get under the boat from the loose gasket or from it being turned up is super slow. Super slow.
We actually drop ours down a little bit during jives. You're turning the boat so sharply that you want it to turn from angle to angle. If it's up too high, it's going to kind of wash sideways through the turn, and you're going to lose a lot of speed. So we actually drop it down 6 inches at least during the jive, and then we'll pull it right back up.
So, quick question. In higher winds, is there ever a situation where you want to leave the board down, but specifically higher winds?
Downwind?
Yep.
No,
I would
the
say-
boat can,
That's going to push the bow down and make the bow potentially
Right,
dive.
and when the bow starts to round up, then the boat trips on the centerboard and you can broach.
Yep.
Right?
Does everybody understand what he's saying about that? Why?
board up.
The board's a great big flat piece. It's the difference between getting if you're standing in front of a sink full of water or your bathtub and you take your hand like a knife and you go through the water, what happens? Your hand goes nice and smooth through it. Turn that hand sideways and try to go through that water, you're just smacking the top doing a belly flop. The same thing with your board being down. If in high winds your boat starts to turn on you, that board is just going to try to restrict that water flow. The board stops and the rest of the boat keeps going, keeps going.
Keep going over.
On a couple of the sales today, it looked like we probably had a 20 to 30% starboard favor coming around the. I was thinking, jive set. I didn't see anybody really do a jive set right at the mark. They all kind of went out a little bit before they cracked over quickly. I'm just curious on, David, when you see that 20, 25% starboard lift going upwind solid, do you do the jibe set right,
Yeah, and
right at the pin?
here's what Ryan and I kind of thought what we saw is everybody was so focused on just getting the kite up that they weren't thinking about the tactic. So if I came around weather mark super lifted, I know the header's going to be on port, right? So normally what you want to do there is not set, actually jibe the boat and then do a weather set. Because that way you're not going to give away any distance on the fetch into the next gate.